He's our chief documentarian. His name is Kian Simone. He joins us now. Hey, Kian, or K2, as we lovingly call him around the office. How you doing?
Good. How are you guys? Thanks for having me on.
Come on, thanks for help setting things up. Tell us a little bit. We played a trailer about your movie. Actually, we played an ad for it. And I might ask our team at the HQ Efron to tee up. I know that Kian has a new trailer he put on Twitter just today. Why don't you set the scene for a minute, and then we'll throw to that trailer if our HQ's ready to do it.
Yeah, sure thing. I like how you started. You couldn't put the right words on what it's actually about. It's Western rights or Western independence, and it's perfect that we can't actually pin it down because it's such a broad subject that I didn't really understand when I got here. So when Jason Kenney actually brought me here, he was my Trump. And believe it or not, it's funny that we're here tonight. But he was my Trump, and he wasn't going to discriminate me, or so is what I heard. So when my local Walmart in Ontario got taped up for non-essential items, the next day I packed my car up and I went to Calgary. I told my mom that night, I said, I'm leaving. This is the only place that I can go where I can feel free. And then when the vaccine passports came in, I didn't know where else to go, didn't know what else to do. I didn't know where else to go to Canada. Someone said, well, let's just leave. I said, well, that's Quebec talk. What are you talking about? And I had no idea that Alberta had a whole movement of different people with different perspectives of what we can do in Alberta to become more independent. And that's something that I explore in the documentary, is that independence isn't about separation, it's about making our own decisions.
Well, let's see. Are we ready in the HQ in the control room with Kian's new trailer? I saw it on his Twitter feed. Are we able to play that now, Mocha and Efron? Okay, here we go. This is the newest. It's going to be a flavor thing. I like this. I just saw it today for the first time. Take a look.
Tell people the world's on fire. Identify the problem. Attack it. Non-stop. Wait for a friend. Maybe. Definitely not. Yep.
Chocolate chip.
That's him. Kill the pipelines. The world's still on fire. Blame Alberta. Blame. Blame some more. Now the world's in need. Don't give him this. Or this. Take these. Screw that. Are we done? No. Finally, he's gone. Don't want you. I want you. But this is not good. Don't worry. We'll win. Destroying Canada's most conservative province. It's that easy.
Well, that's a vibe, as the kids say. K2, good work on that. It is semi-autobiographical, even though it's not set up that way. I mean, you came out here, and so you sort of, as you said, you discovered this whole way of thinking that I mean, how would anyone in Toronto know about Western sovereignty? I mean, it's completely alien out there, completely irrelevant out there, but you sort of discovered it out here.
We spent a week or 2 weeks in school learning about Quebec separatism.
Yeah.
And then how that's set up, our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and Pierre Poilievre, with the first referendum in the 60s, Pierre Poilievre.
Trudeau.
Yeah, I
was curious.
How he comes in the 80s and he forces French onto the rest of the country. How there's no maple leaf west of the Manitoba border. Like, all of these things just kind of weirdly added up in my head. I'm like, look, this is weird, and it is a new way of thinking. And I think you put it the best of how we actually aren't allowed, quote unquote, to talk about it out here, or else we're looked at like we're kooky or far right extremists, when it's really not the case. It's real people with real problems, like I put it in the documentary. And I would actually disagree that it's not an autobiography. I think that Albertans have had enough of people from Ontario telling them what to think and what to do.
You're not from Ontario.
I just got
You're from here.
So I tried to leave myself out of it as much as possible and show people what I learned. So maybe the people who are watching it actually already know a lot of the stuff in it, but as our chief Calgary executive says, it reignited some anger and inside of them that I think that I wanted to do in a right way, in a way that people can start to articulate the issues that Albertans face and can go in a right way of dealing with them, like how we might see tonight.
So how much of this disgruntled nature of Albertans, how much were you aware of that before you got here? I'm always curious, because for me, it's just my state of being. But I'm always curious from the outside looking in, did you know anything about why we don't like it here?
Absolutely zero. And even when I got here, I was even kind of thrown off by the fact that people were angry, because this is my safe haven. this is my heaven, right? In a way of, I escaped from somewhere that was like a completely different country. And I come here and people are mad about how they are. I was like, are you kidding me? You're mad about this? Like, you should go over there and see what it's like. So it's just a funny perspective. And now I totally understand and I agree with a lot of it, to be honest. I just really had to settle in and become an Alberta first.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, why'd you choose the name Ungovernable?
I think it's catchy for one. And two, well, look at where we are tonight. We are at Jason Kenney's release. If that's the good way to put it.
Yep.
And it's because, and it's understandable when you go through a shotgun marriage or when two companies merge, the leader that comes out of that never going to last for a long time. So it's going to be the same with political parties because of not agreeing on things. And COVID was the perfect time to not agree on something. But I think Albertans are obviously the ones who pushed him out with that 51% vote. And that just shows to prove that if you are not going to appeal to someone's wants and needs and honestly desires and their rights, freedoms, then you're gone. And I think that that's what ungovernable means. It doesn't mean anarchy. It just means if you're not going to listen to me, I'm not going to follow you.
You know, I'm a little bit older than you, just a teeny bit. And when I grew up, there was a feeling of Western alienation because of Pierre Trudeau's national energy program. And in fact, Alberta elected a separatist MLA. But then the Conservative Premier, Peter Lougheed, said, okay, I see a lot of energy there. I don't want to be outflanked there. I'm going to try and be the defender of Alberta. And, you know, with some pluses and minuses, that's what he did. And then Brian Mulroney was elected to end Trudeau. And Alberta said, okay, good, we can relax now. We don't have to run away now. But he let people down again, too. And so the rise of separatism again. And then Preston Manning said, no, we don't want out. And his slogan for the Reform Party was, the West wants in. Again, he took all that energy and redirected it towards reform, which, spoiler alert, it didn't work. He never won. I really don't know what the strategy was, because how could you possibly win if you don't have a majority of the seats you're even contending? Like, how could Western Canada ever have a regional party that would beat Ontario and Quebec? Like, I don't even know what the strategy was. And I was, I was Preston Manning's assistant for 2 years. How could that possibly have worked other than to split the vote? And Jacques Pagette, again, you're too young to even know that. He won 3 majorities back to back in the 30-something percentages, because Alberta's reform vote split it. And so here we are, it's 2022, and you have another Trudeau, and you have more energy. You know, they feel beat up in more ways by Justin Trudeau than even his dad. Pipelines destroyed, blocked. I mean, just not just through tax. I mean, Pierre Trudeau was a kind of communist. He wanted to nationalize the means of production, but he still wanted the means of production. He just wanted to steal it. Justin Trudeau doesn't want to steal the oil. He wants to lock it in the ground. He doesn't want anyone to get it. You know, a true communist says, let the workers have the means of production. Justin Trudeau is worse than that. He says no one will use oil. We'll just have green solar panels.
Hydrogen.
Yeah. And is the energy? I'm not sure if there's a question here. I'm just enjoying rambling. But K2, here's my question. Pierre Poilievre is giving some Westerners hope. Danielle Smith, if she wins tonight, is going to have some tough talk about sovereignty. But isn't it true every time there's a wave of Alberta's sovereignty, someone comes in and says, no, I got a better idea. Don't leave. I'm Stephen Harper. I'm Brian Mulroney. I'm Pierre Poilievre. I'm Danielle Smith. I'm Preston Manning. No, don't leave. I got a better idea. And none of those better ideas have really been much better.
I wouldn't say that there's any malice towards that. I actually don't think Albertans want to leave at all. At least the majority of the ones even call themselves separatists or independence minded. And that's because of that pattern that you were talking about, how it goes up and down with different people coming out saying, this is what Albertans want and need. So we have to give that to them. And right now, what we see today is with Danielle Smith and Pierre Poilievre, they're going to kill that independence movement again. And that's
like
a good
Harper
thing.
did.
I
Yeah.
think that's a good thing. I think that Alberta needs to find its place in this confederation, or else it's going to go through. It's going to get ugly. And yeah, just like Harper did. But I think that and Derek Filderbrand put this actually in a really good way in the documentary. He said Alberta wants to stay in Canada, or sorry, wants to leave Canada, but leave the Canadian flag up. Quebec wants to stay in Canada, but take the flag down. And I think that sums up it pretty well, that pattern when the separatist or independence movement goes ups and down. And I think that Danielle Smith, if she wins tonight, and Pierre Poilievre, I think it'll kill the independence movement for another 10 years.
Well, we'll see. I mean, something called the Sovereignty Act. I mean, it's using some powerful words, and it's using Quebec as a powerful precedent. Boy, a lot of forces to be against it. I was thinking, it's not any one thing. Like an Alberta pension plan, an Alberta police force, an Alberta employment insurance scheme. None of those things are inherently odious. I mean, in fact, there could be opportunities for. I mean, it's not a negative. So why are they so afraid of her? I think it's because she will normalize the vocabulary of Alberta first. Normalize people saying, well, if Quebec has it, we want it too.
And I think, sorry to interrupt you, boss, but I think it's going to trigger something in perhaps Saskatchewan. It might trigger something perhaps in Manitoba, not to follow us to be as radical as we are in our independence, but to prickle against Ottawa even more. And we're already seeing the seeds of that with Saskatchewan and Manitoba following us in resisting Trudeau's gun grab. Saskatchewan already has an associate deputy minister of sovereignty, of basically prickling against Ottawa. That was something that they started doing in 2020. So there's like you say, Danielle Smith is going to normalize this, and that is really going to threaten the Laurentian elites when you see this happening in Alberta, which carries a lot of wealth, but also you're going to see a prairie bloc.
You know, I was talking to Derek Hildebrand a minute ago about how the CBC's Jason Markusoff called up Travis Taylors, not for real journalism, but to basically threaten and say, if you go to this semi-separatist panel, we're going to write a hell of a story about you. So I need to know right now, are you going or not? That's not journalism.
You need to do it with a better voice.
And I don't even know what voice I was doing. Derek thought I was mimicking Markusoff. I don't even remember how Markusoff sounded. But that wasn't journalism. That was a threat. And why did the CBC, why did the regime media, why did they want him not to go there? Because they want it to be a third rail. They want it to be a taboo. They want it to be that you're not even allowed to talk about these things. Because if people started to talk about them and said, yeah, if Quebec has it, we want it too. If that normalized, more than any one thing, more than a pension plan or a police force or employment insurance, or more than any of those little things, equalization, just the mindset of, like, I mean, in Quebec, K2, I don't know if you know this, but sovereignty or Quebec first, because it's also cultural and linguistic. So much of the cultural industries, their songwriters, their artists, their comedians are naturally sovereigntist, because it's not just about a geography and an economy. It's about a history and a people.
Culture.
And, yeah, culture, French New Canada. And so it's actually cool to be a sovereigntist there. And every party tries to outdo each other, even if their technical solution is different. And if that ever happened in Alberta or the West, that's what they're scared about. They're not scared about this policy or that policy. They're scared about the national consciousness. The thing, you know, it's like Taiwan versus mainland China. Over the last 20 years, more and more Taiwanese regard themselves as a distinct ethnic nation, as opposed to people who fled the mainland, fled Chairman Mao. They think of themselves as a coherent people, not just a hotel. And if Albertans, and by the way, Newfoundland's the same way. It's a very coherent, culture strong. If Albertans
A distinct society, one might say.
exactly,
Yeah.
if Alberta ever had that consciousness, that would be the threat to the Eastern Laurentian elites.
Were we forced into Canada in 1905 when?
I don't think it was a forced. Now, there was a great province plan. called Buffalo. It would have been Alberta and Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
And
At
it was
the
cut
last
in half.
minute.
The last minute was cut in two to keep it small, to keep them divided. September 1st, 1905. I once, I was going to tell I won a poetry contest with a limerick about.
Let's hear it.
You know what? I don't even remember it. And the thing about limericks is you got to get it right. But Alberta was born unequal. It didn't have the same constitutional rights as the other provinces. It didn't have the same natural resource rights as the other provinces. It certainly didn't have the same Senate privileges as the other provinces. Here's a quick example. Alberta, 4.5 million people, has 6 seats in the Senate. Nova Scotia, what, about 1 million people, has 10 seats in the Senate. It's just one small example. Quebec is guaranteed 3/9 of the Supreme Court. There's so many little institutional systemic biases there. Alberta is not free, it is not equal. And if Alberta ever woke up to that, then the establishment would tumble.
Do you think it would have been different if we came into the Confederation with oil? We didn't get oil for another 40 years, 42 years.
Maybe. Now there were land. I mean, there were other things Alberta had of value.
Food.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a tough one. And the problem now is that so many ideas are shaped by such a small handful. And just like you can't say anything against the COVID narrative, just like you can't say anything against, let's say, the anti-Trump narrative, there's certain things you cannot say, or the transgender narrative. You literally will be silenced and censored or throttled. I fear that they will use big tech to cancel any discussions of this. They will say it's foreign funded. They will say it's disinformation. They'll say it's disloyal. I worry that with the concentration of not only the official media, but now the social media, I wonder if these conversations can even be held in Alberta in the way they were a generation ago. I think we're about to find out, though.
I think it's exciting. I think I don't think it matters who wins tonight with I'd say the top two runners, Todd Lowen and Danielle Smith. I think those conversations will still be had.
It's interesting you think Todd Lowen is number two.
Oh, sorry, Travis Davis.
Travis Davis.
We'll see.
In my heart.
Yeah. Well, listen, KT, you're doing great work with the documentary. Now, Sheila, you know these stats offhand. Ungovernable will be unspooled, as they say in Variety. Where are we unspooling that?
I'll actually throw this to K2 because this is his baby.
I have to guess what unspooled means.
That means the premiere.
When are we doing
When's the release of the movie? That's just Hollywood inside talk.
Oh yeah, you're a big Hollywood
I'm a
insider.
really big Hollywood insider. I don't know why I said that word unspooled. It's the first time in my life I've been able to use it. When are we unspooling the documentary?
Hopefully it's the last time too. It's October
never
12th
again.
at Kenya Meadows Cinemas. It's a local theater in Calgary. The best movie theater in Alberta. They've hosted us many times. Many times now, family run. And they don't care what we put in there. I mean, they care, but they
believe in free expression.
And they got great snacks. I should tell you, they have 9 different varieties of corn dog.
Some frightened you.
Yes, I'm frightened. There was a pistachio version. I thought that just ain't right.
I might try that next time.
Pistachio.
Yeah,
You like to
October
live
12th.
dangerously.
And you can get your tickets at albertadocumentary.com.
AlbertaDocumentary.com.
No, but we have other experiences. So maybe you're not into the theater experience. You want a more intimate experience, dinner and a movie. We have that too.
Yeah, that's October 19th at Buffet Royale. Another free speech.
In Edmonton.
In Edmonton.
I think I'm going to that. I mean, you just say Buffet Royale, and I'm pretty much guaranteed to be there. No, I'm kidding around. I've been to the Buffet Royale a few times for events. It's super friendly folks. So that's all at albertadocumentary.com.
And then one more viewing, October 30th at my favorite church, Church in the Vine. Freedom Fighter Church.
Exactly.
And that one is like a very close experience. So if you don't want to do a dinner or you don't want to be in a movie theater, you want to be in a church with 500 other people, I think that's the place to
and
go.
that one's very family friendly. I think for that we've included in the cost of the ticket there. I think the tickets are $12 for that, and we included in that popcorn and a drink. So it's super family budget.
And no
affordable.
swearing in the movie.
No swearing in the movie. That's
bring your
totally
kids.
like PG version.
Well, that's right. I mean, I remember we got a letter from the Alberta Film Rating Agency And my instinct was, no one rates my films. That's censorship. But all they really said is just send us a link. We'll watch it and we'll give you the rating.
You know, they never rated the Kamloops one.
They never did.
I sent it.
Isn't that interesting? You know what? On the one hand, I thought, who the hell are you to tell us anything? But, you know, on the other hand, they weren't cancel culture.
They're just covering their
They
butts.
just said, look, this is our job. We got to do it. Just let us rate the film for you. And
Don't fight with us.
Yeah.
Don't sue us.
yeah. So I was ready for some fight. And my friend said, this is not going to happen. Like, there's no charge to it. They just watch it.
Right.
Give it PG-13 or whatever. I don't even know the ratings anymore. But you know what I liked about it is that feels like a real movie.
Yeah.
Like a real movie, a real rating agency. That's sort of cool.
It's a great feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So have you submitted the ungovernable one yet?
I have to tomorrow. The final just came out today.
Oh,
hot
nice.
off
The final
press.
cut.
Yeah.
Well, you know, that's great. I mean, how many documentaries have you done with us now? You've done the Coots one. You've done
Boots, Boer, the Netherlands
Yeah,
documentary.
yeah.
We've got this one, Ungovernable. We've got the Expose and Reset docu-series.
And then the Kamloops,
exciting.
Your appointment on Kamloops.
yeah, the buried.
Well, it was all Matt.
Oh, that was
That
Matt
was
Brevner's work. Yeah,
I
that was-
just kind of did the rejigging around.
oh, yeah.
You're in charge of documentaries.
Well, we've got some great documentaries. That's super duper. Well, Kian, Simone, great to see you. Thanks for popping by. We call him K2. And
Number one in our hearts. Though.
yeah, that's right. Now, I just hear in my ear from Efrain Oswaldo Flores Monsanto that we have another trailer for this that we'll play right now. So here's, if you want one more taste of Ungovernable, here's another trailer for you.
It's the values. You look at Western values in Western society, and these are values we could all relate to, but they're old world values of grit and community and perseverance.
It's a place where you can make a living with your back and your hands and a little bit of hard work. And it's a place of opportunity. And I think as Albertans, we're fiercely protective of that.
The world's energy crisis has been grabbing newspaper headlines. In a nutshell, we're running short of petroleum resources and the prices are zooming upwards.
My colleagues in the government and I have come reluctantly to believe that the price of oil in Canada must go up.
This was Alberta.
Origin of the Alberta separatist movement begins with the election of Pierre Trudeau as Prime Minister.
It was a deliberate and malicious targeting of the West, which suited Pierre Trudeau just fine, just like it suits Justin Trudeau just fine.
Sunny ways, my friends.
Blackface.
There is an actual hostile government towards Alberta.
Why did your dad give everyone in Western Canada the middle finger?
Really, in politics, you do have to make big decisions, and whenever you make big decisions, there's going to be people who agree with it and people who don't disagree with it.
Plenty of people want to leave this country.
It's not the kind of idea you'd expect to hear from someone who wants to win power and hold power. It is a radical idea.
And you would normalize the discussion. And so maybe Alberta wouldn't have to go, because maybe the rest of the country and the rest of the world would say, whoa, don't go. Will you accept these changes instead? That's what happened for Quebec.
There's no maple leafs west of the Manitoba border. Why do we have a maple leaf by unilateral decision on the Canadian flag?
Think of how the American colonists were in 1775. That's how a lot of Albertans are today.